Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you had a chance to drink coffee. It has been a fairly long day for all of us. I hope people online were able to stretch a bit their legs. And first of all, welcome to this session. This is the last session for today. It's on disruptive technologies, and I think it will be definitely the most interesting session of the day. I'm just joking. But I think indeed that it will be an interesting topic, but for a series of reasons. On one side, we have high-level speakers, and these speakers are from a very different range of stakeholders. We do have private sector firms, we have academia, we have people like me coming from the development sector, and I guess that this will provide the audience a quite broad perspective of how technology, how we can leverage technologies to really tackle climate change and also development challenges that we as humans are experiencing. So I will be the first one to present, and I will start with a brief presentation, probably slightly different from those of other participants, because somehow my focus will be on developing countries. I am a consultant working for international organizations, mostly the World Bank, and I've been working throughout my career mainly in Pakistan and Afghanistan. And I will try to provide you with an idea of how, sorry, other way around. Yeah. Well, first I will provide you a brief definition of what we can define as disruptive technology. And I will provide you with some examples of technologies that are already being deployed in developing countries and that had or are having a quite important impact in people's livelihood, but also ideas of what I believe will happen in the next few years, and hopefully how we can leverage technology to really enhance development goals. So starting with the very basic, disruptive technologies is a concept that was developed around the mid-90s by Harvard Business School scholars, and it's mainly is basically a technology, a new technology that not only replaced established technologies, but also creates or modified the business model in the way that this technology is being deployed, and often this comes with a big change in how we approach to the technology itself, and it implies also change in society overall. And sorry, let me go back. Of course, when it's difficult to deploy disruptive technologies in a country like Italy, it's even more difficult when we are dealing with developing countries, because of course the development challenges we're facing there are even bigger. And I used to call this the uphill climb. The first example that comes to my mind when we are talking of disruptive technology is solar lighting. Let's be clear, 1 person in 10 in the planet lives still today without access to electricity. They live in darkness. Well, they do not actually live in darkness. They use unsustainable, expensive lighting devices. The most common one is kerosene lanterns. And if you have ever traveled in developing countries where grid connection is not available, what you will see is that the rooms of the houses are often dark. They're not white. And the reason why the wall of the rooms are not white is that kerosene lanterns release a lot of pollutants. And these pollutants are bad, of course, for the wall of the house, but are also bad for the lungs of the people that lives there. So the idea here is that solar lighting has been an incredible driver of access to electricity and access to lighting. And I'm just showcasing here 2 examples from 2 very different markets. Basically, this is a graph of access to electricity, some sort of electricity, in rural areas. And the blue line represents Afghanistan, the red line represents Kenya. So different market, different context. What is striking is that both countries experience a quite remarkable growth in access to electricity over the past decade or so. And if you see in both graphs, basically there is, of course it goes up and down, these are somehow statistics, but you see that from 2010, both countries experienced this remarkable growth. And the reason why this happened is that solar lighting became competitive in terms of pricing and became widespread. Overall, the bank estimates that over 420 million people gain access to electricity thanks to solar in the past 10 years. So there are still 800 million to go, but at least 400 gain access to it. This created, of course, saved a lot of CO2 emission, 50 million tons estimated. And this is just an image our consultant took in Afghanistan. This is what you see in vertical is a solar panel installed not in the proper way, I would say, but still, again, better than nothing. And in a country like Afghanistan, you travel in rural areas and solar panels are everywhere. How this was possible? Well, the solar revolution was mainly driven by private sector firms. There are a bunch of firms. They are from all over the world, from Germany to China, US, Africa as well. I just mentioned here a few of them, that in a purely commercial way, they managed to tackle this market. And we are talking of developing countries, which is really difficult to enter. Some of the lessons learned out of this sort of revolution are that, of course, solar became competitive as the price of solar panel came down, the price of LED light came down, the price of lithium battery came down. This firm also innovate in their business model. And there are a lot of examples. It would take me too long to speak about these examples, so we'll just cut it quite short. But they basically leveraged both mobile money payments, they leveraged microfinance institution presence, or they created their own financing model, which is called pay-as-you-go, which is basically a system to switch on or switch off a device if the person pays the monthly or weekly or bi-weekly fee. And these work both with or without government support. And this was a remarkable, let's say, a way in which technology allowed to achieve development goals as well as combat climate change all at once, all driven by the product sector. What's next? Clean cooking services. 1 person in 3 in the world still uses charcoal and wood for cooking. And the image you see on the top right, that's from Pakistan, and it's everywhere in the mountains. You go and you see people carrying firewood. I personally conducted a survey in the Central Karakoram National Park that has been discussed previously in different interventions. And 80% of the wood consumption in those areas is coming from firewood, or for firewood, because of firewood. This tells us a story. If we are able to find a technology that improves the efficiency of cooking while we wait for better services, whether it is LPG or electricity for cooking and heating, this could save not only the forest, but could save also the lungs of people. The World Health Organization estimates 4 million people die each year as a consequence of inhalating bad smoke or chemicals being released by the imperfect combustion of charcoal or wood. Another, looking always at the energy somehow aspect, another revolution that is already happening and you can clearly see it is solar water pumping. Again, 2 pictures from Afghanistan. The big on the right, you see an advertisement on the Kabul to Mazar road. And this is, again, an advertisement of 1 person watering his fields through solar water pump. In developing countries, most of water pumping is made through, let me turn off my mask, is made through or is fueled by diesel generators. These are expensive, are polluting, they requires lots of maintenance. Solar water pumps are extremely simple to operate. They do not require a battery. You just need a solar panel and the pump itself. And this is becoming a revolution, is allowing for people to water their fields in a very easy and simple way. And you see on the left the image of the farmer that actually is quite happy with his solar panel, pumping the water from the river on the backside to a tank. And then through this tank is watering the orchards on the backside. Estimates put this market at a 2 billion market by 2028. Now we change completely topic. satellite images. We have heard a lot this morning about atmospheric simulation models, about environmental parameters to be monitored. This is something really I felt throughout my career, how there has been a lot of information, or the increasing the flow of information coming from satellite data. And I think that this for the environment will cause, again, a leapfrog in how we deal with numbers, what we can do out of the information you can derive from satellite or drones or remote sensing in general. Just a few examples, won't take long. This is for natural resource management. There is a portal, it's called Global Forest Watch, which is managed by the World Resource Institute, which allows you to monitor near real-time deforestation throughout the world. This is a picture from my province, from Trento. You can see all this spotted, all this area in pink color are actually forests that have been not cutted, but thrown down by the Baia storm some 2-3 years ago. And it's quite precise. Of course, you can do ground measurement, which are much more precise in many ways, but at least you can get a glimpse of what's happening in forest resources throughout the planet Earth. Agriculture. This is again an image from Afghanistan. We've been working there with the bank over the past few years to create a drought early warning system. Is a tool that again relies on satellite images made available by Google Earth engine, and you can basically near real time also here monitor crop status and identify early enough drought or other disease that might hit the agriculture fields that are in turn might cause a humanitarian crisis. And that's what we are seeing this year. You can see the image in the center. This is a quite common index being used to monitor drought and vegetation conditions, sorry. It's called NDVI, and you see clearly basically that the more yellow it is, the less productive the vegetation is, we can say. And you can clearly see that compared to the image from 1 year before, it's striking how the vegetation is performing in a poorer way, and the reason is that there has been a drought that has affected the country since the winter 2021. Another, we've been talking in previous session as well about watershed management, hydrology, the importance of or the effects of climate change on the water cycle. There are works being carried out at the moment. The one of which I think is really interesting is the GeoGlows stream flow prediction. This is basically a tool that allows to forecast stream flow for each river around the world based on ECMWF weather forecast, medium, short, long term. And this type of information, if in a country like Italy, it's okay, it's curious, but it might not be super useful. In developing nation can bring, or can, on this information, can develop instruments that can save life of people. In case of flash floods or in case of floods, you can estimate the area that is going to be affected by the flood, and you can send an early warning message before the event takes place. So, in a nutshell, disruptive technology really have the potential to tackle climate change, while at the same time also solving some of the most impending development challenges that are affecting developing countries. There are, however, some lessons learned from what have been already deployed throughout the years. I put here 5 key aspects, which in my opinion are really important. Funding. We need funding to identify the technology, we need funding to pilot the technologies, and we need funding to mainstream the technology. We need investment in human resources, in the infrastructure, and in the overall business environment able to support these technologies deployment. We need to enhance private sector participation. Private sector is key. It's only private sector capable of deploying technology in such an extent as it's needed to really tackle both climate change and the development challenges. And you need to reduce market barriers at entry. You need to, or you might want to restructure subsidy in order to be able to leverage again the deployment of this technology. And finally, two additional things that might be obvious, but often they are not. Awareness and knowledge is important also in developing country to provide information to people on the risk, but also on the benefits associated with the deployment of technology. And finally, of course, collaboration across sectors. This is always a key aspect, which even more today that systems are becoming more complicated, technology is having multiple consequences on different sectors, is always required enhanced collaboration. And that's basically all I had to say. So thank you.